All right, we are here today with Tori, a practitioner who is trained in the Clean Body method, to talk about polyphenols. And this is basically eating the rainbow. These polyphenols are the colors that make your foods so vibrant. And we are talking about polyphenols and why they are so important for eczema. So, Tori, thank you so much for joining me today in this really important conversation because this is like medicine that we're eating every day, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And so easy, right? It's like an easy thing that everybody can do to improve, their nutrition, but their eczema as well.
Yeah, and I really want you to think of these polyphenols as the medicine that you are putting in your mouth every single day. So we're going to be talking about what are polyphenols. Maybe you don't even know what they are, so we're going to talk about that first. What role do these polyphenols have in your gut? And that's so important because we have that skin gut axis that if you have eczema, you likely have some gut issues. How do polyphenols affect the skin? What are the best sources of polyphenols? And, then we're going to give you the strategies. How do you actually get these polyphenols into your system so that you can start healing using food? So, Tori, what are polyphenols? Break it down for us.
Yeah, polyphenols are like compounds found in plants, and they're actually they're protective for plants. And so when we eat those and take those in, they actually become protective for us too. So they are antioxidants, and so they protect us from oxidative stress. They help with inflammation, all kinds of things. So they're really the easiest way to tell if there's polyphenols is those rich, really bright, deep colors that you find in plant-based foods.
Absolutely. So plants have these to protect themselves, and we are so lucky to be able to eat these plants so that they can protect us as well. So, you see this beautiful rainbow bowl here, and this is what we want you to be making your plates and your bowls look like. And we always talk about the gut when we're talking about eczema because, there is this skin gut axis. The microbiome of your gut can match the microbiome of your skin. If your microbiome in your gut is imbalanced, your skin microbiome can be imbalanced, and therefore that can increase eczema. So much of your immune system is in your gut, and eczema really is this dysfunction where the immune system is just kind of a little bit messed up, right? It's creating inflammation where it's not supposed to be creating inflammation, and therefore we get itchy. And that's really, the breakdown of eczema, and gut is one of those main issues. And food is something we're putting in our mouths a couple of times a day. So we can either choose for that food to be medicinal or we can choose for it to be poisonous, right? And so tell us a little bit about how polyphenols work in the gut.
Yeah, so one of the best things they do in the gut is they actually feed that healthy, good bacteria. So we have, it's like a good army in our gut of these bacteria that kind of fight for us and they help our immune system. And so the polyphenols are like food for those good probiotic bacteria. So that's great to take more of those in. You feed those oh my gosh, proliferate, excuse me, and they increase in number. And then that means our immune system is even stronger. They also help reduce the bad bacteria. So the bacteria that isn't supposed to be there, can sometimes overgrow if given the opportunity. So polyphenols kind of keep that at bay and kind of make sure that growth doesn't get out of control. And then, of course, it reduces inflammation. So inflammation in the gut is a huge issue, especially with eczema. And you see evidence of that when you see rashes on the skin. You can see that inflammation process that's in the gut. So polyphenols will help with that as well. So lots of application in the gut with those deep colors from all those plant-based foods.
Yeah, and these colors are also antioxidants. So you want to think
Mhm.
about oxidative stress, like when you cut open an apple and it starts to brown, if you just leave it out on the counter, that's oxidative stress happening onto that apple. And eventually, if you just leave that apple there, it's basically just going to rot and degrade, right?
Mhm.
And unfortunately, because we're doing so many things in our world today, consuming toxins, being exposed to toxins, we're having a lot of oxidative stress in our gut, lining even, and on our cells. And so just imagine your cells and your gut lining kind of like rotting like an apple that you would keep out. And so what these polyphenols are, they're really those antioxidants that'll combat that, degradation that's happening due to all these toxins we're being exposed to. So unfortunately, in our world today, we can't necessarily avoid all toxins. We can do our best. And that's what we do at Clean Body is we try to clean up everything in your lifestyle. But of course, we still can't help a lot of the toxins that are just out there in the world. So this is your way to combat that. So, we want you to really learn about these polyphenols. Okay. So um, in terms of the skin, that oxidative stress piece is really important. And tell us more about Tori, about polyphenols and skin in particular, because of our eczema listeners.
Yeah, there's a couple oxidative stress, like you said. It also polyphenols will help actually absorb radiation from the sun. So that's important to prevent just issues from having a sunburn or being in the sun too long. The sun is also healthy, so there's a balance of getting a good amount of sun and then getting a little bit too much. So this can help with that actually, and then it also inhibits those enzymes that can actually break down collagen, which creates issue with the skin. That can be part of eczema too, is just the health of the skin and how easily that skin can break down when you have chronic eczema after a long time. So it's important to build that barrier back up and make it stronger. And then of course, inflammation, redness, itchiness, polyphenols are going to directly impact that for the skin as well.
Yeah, it's so important for the skin, these vibrant colors. And when people enter our program and work with Tori and I, uh, often, even before they start supplements and we just start having them eat the rainbow when they've maybe been eating a diet that's filled with just rice and meat and no colors, they start to see change in their skin. And not only does the eczema get better, but they also see that they're retaining more moisture. Maybe wrinkles are going away. They're glowing, and they may not see that, but people will start to tell them. They'll say, "What are you doing? Your skin is glowing. You look beautiful. What's happening?" And part of the reason is these polyphenols. So such an important, part of your daily life is eating, and so this is just a very simple decision that you can make. So, now the question is, there's these polyphenols in your food. Does cooking destroy some of these polyphenols, or does it unlock some of these polyphenols? And the answer is both. So heat can both destroy some of the heat sensitive polyphenols, especially when you boil these, fruits and vegetables. And heat can also unlock some bound polyphenols, making them easier to absorb. So, the answer here is a combination of cooking and raw food is probably a good idea. When you're thinking about the cooking methods, boiling is going to give you the highest losses. So, the polyphenols will leach into the water and you're going to lose a lot of those polyphenols. So, the best for your vegetables is to just steam them. That's a really nice way that preserves the polyphenols if you do choose to cook your vegetables. Microwaving, you'll have some moderate loss, often less than boiling, but you will have some loss in those polyphenols. And then roasting and stir frying can sometimes actually enhance some of the polyphenols, but you need to make sure not to overcook and char that food. So, your best bet is going to be steaming if you're going to choose to cook your vegetables if you want to keep those polyphenols in. And some examples of how you can destroy or unlock the polyphenols: if you cook tomatoes, you're going to get more lycopene. If you cook carrots, you're going to get more carotenoids and polyphenols. And if you eat raw broccoli instead of cooking the broccoli, you're going to get more of those sulforaphane precursors. So really just a combination of both. And you don't need to know all, the breakdown of cooking versus raw for each and every one of your vegetables. What I like to do is throughout my week or even throughout my day, get a combination of raw and cooked vegetables. So I might have a salad for lunch, for example, and then I'll have cooked vegetables for dinner. And so in that way, I might be getting a combination of those polyphenols that get unlocked when you cook the food. Tori, do you have anything to add here?
No, I was just gonna say the same. And smoothies are another way that you could throw in some extra veggies that maybe, you can always sneak things into smoothies. That's the nice thing about them. But I would say diversity is also really important, is to just think about, a multitude of colors. So if you're a person, and most people are, after working with a lot of people with nutrition, most people are creatures of habit. So try to break out of that. And if you typically always go for broccoli and carrots, maybe you try some butternut squash, or you try some asparagus. Like, you look for colors and different options in those colors so that you're getting so many different types of those polyphenols.
Absolutely. And so let's actually talk about some of these strategies to boost polyphenols in your diet. So the first is eating the rainbow daily. And if that's too hard, even thinking about eating the rainbow weekly could be
Mhm.
another way that you do it. Getting your kids involved in this can be really fun. Like, what are we going to eat tonight that's red? What are we going to eat tonight that's orange, that's yellow, that's green, etc. At Cleanbody, we also have a powder called Cleanbody Complete that includes all of the colors, and I actually do this in our morning drink that's called the Clean Body drink. And I just put a scoop of this. I put a squeeze of lemon. I put some apple cider vinegar and some flaxseed oil. And we call that the Clean Body drink. And then that kind of ensures that I've gotten, okay, all of the colors in my day already. But of course, I also want whole foods as well, too, in addition to supplements. Um, Tori, do you have any ideas or, to make eating the rainbow daily a little easier?
Yeah, I've actually, with clients before, have even had people make like a little chart, especially with kids, to check off what colors they're choosing. Even when you go to the grocery store, like, you're looking, instead of just looking what looks good, you're actually thinking in color. So, okay, I've got strawberries. So maybe now what's something purple I can bring in? What's something orange I can bring in? And I think over the week is probably easier to think of like your load over the whole week, especially as you're shopping at farmers markets and at grocery stores. But salads are great, smoothies are great. And then for dinner, trying to think beyond, like you said earlier, just like the rice and the meat, but you also just need color. You need to add color.
Yep, absolutely. And then, supplements are great if you can't be getting these in your diet, or you're just kind of like, I want to make sure I get them in my diet and I still want to do whole foods, but we want to make sure you're eating whole foods. That's really the best option, is that these are whole, real foods. Now, if necessary, you can do frozen, but we prefer fresh if possible. But if that's easier, you can get frozen vegetables if that's easier, and then you can get supplements if that's easier. But I think a combination might work well. And if you can get all whole foods, even better. And I know that this can be hard for some people. One of my hacks here is I actually am part of a CSA, which is Community Supported Agriculture, which is where you can find one on localharvest.org. You can find a farm that's basically local to you, organic, and they will ship a box to you. And I get a box every 2 weeks. And basically, I get a share of their harvest. And I love it because I get this box that comes and it's full of like colorful vegetables that I often would never actually purchase because I don't even know how to use some of these vegetables in cooking. And so what I have to do is then I have to be creative. And in today's world, you can even do things like ask Chat GPT, like, oh, hey, I have purple cabbage and I have chicken and I have carrots today. Is there a recipe I can make? And ChatGPT can even help you with this, or you can search online for red cabbage and chicken and carrots and see what you come up with. In today's world, it's a lot easier to do things like this. And I love the CSA box because it just, I don't even have to think about it. It just comes. These are local, these are whole foods, they're organic, they're fresh. I also think compared to store-bought vegetables, they actually last a whole lot longer. So that box lasts me for 2 weeks, which is really nice. Tori, do you have any ideas for just helping people get those whole foods in their diet when this can be a problem, especially when you buy your vegetables from the market and then they're spoiled like 3 days later?
Yeah, and the CSAs are great, local farmers markets, and you mentioned this a couple times already, but organic is important, especially because those pesticides, glyphosate that are sprayed on conventional produce can actually damage a lot of the benefits of having these polyphenols. So we want the purest form of these fruits and veggies, and so making sure that you're looking for organic and seasonal and local is even better. Like that's even one step higher. So if you can find, if you don't have, you don't want to do a CSA box, you're not sure you can use all that, maybe the first step is finding a farmer's market that you can go to on Saturday morning and kind of check out what they have that's local to your area. And then they'll have produce that's more seasonal for where you live and that get used to eating in season. And then those colors and options will change as the seasons change. But CSAs are great if you are a person that likes the convenience and things can just get shipped and dropped off to you. There's so many to look for. Lots of great options out there, but organic is really important.
Yeah, and then thinking about that raw and cooked vegetables, in your week, in your day. And for me, again, I like to combine, and Tori mentioned smoothies. I actually do smoothies for my morning, and then I do salads, and then I
Mhm.
do cooked vegetables for dinner, is typically how I might do my day. But I'm always thinking, okay, did I eat any raw fruits and vegetables today? And so I'll have even raw blueberries and citrus like oranges and things like that. So I'm always thinking every day, did I eat some raw fruits and vegetables? Because you will often get a lot of the nutrients from those raw foods, and then of course sometimes cooking them actually releases more of the polyphenols. All right. And then you can also sip on polyphenol rich drinks. So things like green tea, hibiscus tea, black tea, etc., cacao, even. At Cleanbody, often when we have eczema, though, we do like you to avoid too much caffeine, at least while we're starting treatment with you. Often later on, it might be something we can incorporate into the diet, but something like hibiscus tea and cacao might be a good option if you are going to choose to drink anything other than, let's say, water. And then even using herbs and spices that are polyphenols like turmeric, rosemary, oregano, thyme, cinnamon. Turmeric is awesome because this is actually anti-inflammatory and really great for eczema. So just throw turmeric on everything
Yeah.
if you can. Thyme and oregano are pretty awesome for eczema too. For microbiome imbalance, these can often help to balance out that microbiome. And then, snacks, thinking about getting these polyphenols in your snacks. I think first off, thinking about like whole foods, like even fruits like berries, and then combining those with maybe some nuts and seeds.
Mhm.
Even dark chocolate can have some polyphenols too. Tori, any other recommendations here on getting polyphenols other than fruits and vegetables?
Yeah, and I would say with the dark chocolate, don't use that as an excuse to run out and buy your favorite chocolate bar. But there are a few brands out there that, don't have the added sugar. So you want to look for, like 70% or higher. And then you want to look for maybe something like coconut sugar, organic, those kinds of things when you're looking for the right type of chocolate. And a couple, like a square or two. You don't need the whole bar or 2 bars, just a square or two, maybe like Dr. Fong said, with maybe some walnuts on the side and some fresh fruit would be wonderful. Of course, fresh veggies with guacamole or hummus, something that you can dip it in. You can even make sauces. And this goes over well with kids. If you have kids that aren't super into veggies, you can make like a puree type of sauce that you can put on top of your rice, or you can put, maybe make a soup out of, so that you're getting all those polyphenols in, but maybe not in the same way that, it has to be chewed. And not all kids are super open to trying, those new veggies that they've never seen before. So that can be a way that you can also experiment with getting polyphenols in.
Yeah, and as Tori said earlier, rotating these foods, having a lot of variety, different colors means different polyphenols, means better skin and better gut health.
Yeah.
So just rotating all of these is a really good idea. My tip is the CSA box because I kind of don't really know what's gonna come every 2 weeks, which is really wonderful. And I've discovered new vegetables that I would never even try. I think as Tori mentioned, we're creatures of habit, so we might always get like cucumbers and carrots and broccoli, and those are great, but kind of branching out, eating with the season is really wonderful. That makes you eat different polyphenols as well too. So really branching out and figuring out a way that you can kind of get a lot of different colors into your diet, different colors, different polyphenols.
Yeah, even sweet potatoes, that's one that I think most people think of them as orange, and they don't realize that there's other colors out there. There's purple sweet potatoes, there's actually white sweet potatoes. When you cut into it, the flesh is white. So there's a variety of sweet potatoes. So that's just one vegetable that you could buy in a multitude of colors. Cauliflower is similar. You can find purple cauliflower. So just different options for the same veggie. Even if you love cauliflower, you could also buy purple cauliflower, sometimes the white cauliflower. So mixing up the colors will give you different nutrients.
Yeah, and Tori kind of started talking a little bit about that, but for eczema relief, specific foods in eating the rainbow. So let's start with red. So we have things like strawberries, cherries, tomatoes. Now, one thing I will want to say is some people unfortunately do have some sensitivity to some of these red foods, like sometimes the tomatoes and the strawberries can cause some inflammation in some people with eczema. So that's where working with practitioner like myself or Tori can really help to make sure you're not eating things you're sensitive, allergic to. Maybe you have high histamine levels. And so, but that's not something to decide on your own, I would say, if you're not working with someone, just making sure to get these colors is really important. And then maybe observing if some of these foods give you some inflammation. But in general, red foods like strawberries, cherries, and tomatoes are super rich in something called quercetin and lycopene, and both of these reduce inflammation and protect the skin barrier. So we have to, when we're working with our patients and clients, we have to kind of weigh the pros of the good stuff that's in the food versus is this causing inflammation, and that's hard to do on your own. So I think that's where it's important to work with a practitioner. And Tori, I'm sure you have something to add here.
Yeah, I would agree because it's like checks and balances, right? As good as some of these are, this is why something like eczema is very individualized. So for some people, some of these foods can also be inflammatory. Just because usually the inflammation from these foods actually stems from the gut. So it has a lot to do with the state of your gut. And then the goal, of course, ultimately would be that we get some gut healing, and maybe you no longer are sensitive to things like nightshades that might include, those tomatoes or those peppers that, right now could be causing inflammation. So I would say, as you're starting your journey, definitely just work on the rainbow. And then if you're noticing that you're having some kind of response to certain foods, then that's something to take note of. And then when you start working with someone like one of us, we can kind of help hone in on which foods are more beneficial for your own journey.
Absolutely. And so then we have orange foods like carrots, sweet potatoes, turmeric. These have beta carotene and curcumin, and these absolutely support skin healing and calm flare ups. These are some of my favorite to calm those flare ups and get those in your diet. Yellow foods include pineapple, bell peppers, citrus like oranges and lemons. And we do have to be a little careful here again because sometimes people do have sensitivity here, but if we're able to eat them. Vitamin C and bromelain, these boost collagen, reduce skin inflammation. Green foods, I love, love, love. And often we don't necessarily have a lot of sensitivity in this department, but spinach, broccoli, these have detox nutrients that really lower inflammation, help you to detoxify. Blue and purple foods include that purple cabbage, the grapes, berries, and these have anthocyanins, and these protect the gut and really reduce itchiness. So we love these two for our eczema people. And then brown, even though that's not really a color on the rainbow, is still a color, and that might include things like flax seeds and dark chocolate, and these have flavonols and lignans, and these improve circulation and support skin hydration. So, get that rainbow, just get those different colors. When you look down on your plate, you want to say, okay, I missed red, I missed orange. I'm going to get that later today, or I'm going to get that later this week. And the more you can get throughout the week, the more you can get throughout the day, the more benefit you're going to have. And we do want to make sure, if you are getting these in your diet, that you are making sure that these are organic, or at least paying attention to the dirty dozen, because a lot of these dirty dozen foods are some of our most favorite foods that are rich in polyphenols. And unfortunately, we got spinach, pears, strawberries, apples, kale, collard, mustard greens, blackberries, blueberries. These are all in the dirty dozen. So we need to make sure that all of these are organic. If you don't know what the dirty dozen is, you'll go to EWG, which is one of our favorite resources for our patients for making sure that you're living a clean life. And that's ewg.org. And they create a list every year that will tell us what are the most pesticide-ridden foods and what are the cleanest. Then they also have the Clean 15, which is telling us, okay, you can probably get these not organic because they're pretty clean. There aren't a lot of pesticides on these foods. These are things like pineapples, watermelon, cauliflower, sweet corn, avocados, bananas, papaya, etc. Okay, so make sure you pull up this list. And for me, I like to think about this. Okay, I'm going to get all organic when I eat at home. If I'm eating out, I'm just going to make sure that I'm not eating, let's say, a spinach salad or a kale salad when I'm out. I don't get blueberries when I'm out because those are going to have pesticides more than likely if they don't say that they're organic. Tori, do you have any other recommendations here to just make sure that we make this easy for people to eat organic?
Yeah, and really the most important, even above that, is just wash your produce. So prioritize what you can, because sometimes people will say, I went to the store and the organic strawberries look terrible. They didn't look fresh, and the conventional looks great. What should I do? And I would say, don't pick strawberries this week. Maybe pick something on that Clean 15 list instead. But no matter what, even if you buy organic, you always want to wash your produce. And it's not a quick wash, just like under the faucet. We want you to actually soak it for, 5 or 10 minutes to make sure all those pesticides come off, and that they're clean. And you're making sure that, even the ones that are organic, sometimes the wind blows, and depending on where that field is, where those, fruits and veggies are going, we want to make sure that nothing else is on them.
Absolutely. And Tori, do you have a little recipe for what people can use to clean their fruits and vegetables?
Yeah, you can use baking soda and a little bit of lime. You can also use a little bit of vinegar. Don't use those at the same time because they will cancel each other out, but it can be one or the other. And then just let it soak, like I said, just for about 10 minutes. What I like to do is I get home from the farmer's market or from the grocery store. I fill up a big container and I dump like all my berries and things in there. I let everything soak, and then I strain it, and then I lay it out on like a towel and let it all just kind of dry up a little bit so that it's not wet when I put it away. And you want to be careful of that, because if it's super wet, then you can encourage some mold growth. And so be careful that you let it air dry for a little while before you put it away. But then that way, when it's in the fridge, you can just grab and go, and it's all ready for you and washed, and you don't have to think about it like later in your week.
Absolutely. That's a really great tip. All right. So, if you have eczema and you are interested in understanding what the root causes are for you, I do have a free eczema root cause assessment. The link is in my bio, or you can DM me, and I'm happy to send that to you. And if you are interested in working one on one with our team, you can book a root cause consultation. You'll actually meet directly with Tori, and Tori will kind of assess you, understand what's going on with you, help you to understand what the root causes are of your eczema. And It can be microbiome, nutrition, lifestyle, toxic burden, etc. And if you are really severe, she might forward you to me, and then we might meet and we might work together. So, if you're interested in this, book a consultation. The link is in my bio. Use the code IG10. We do have a money back guarantee on this. So it's risk free to do this and to really get some answers about your eczema. All right. Now we'd love to open it up to some questions. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and type into the comments or chat box here. And we are happy to answer any and all questions on this topic. And Tori, do you have any other little tips or anything else to say about polyphenols before we head out? Polyphenols and eczema.
I would just say, when you were going through that list of all the colors, I was thinking how, I tend towards certain colors. Like you mentioned turmeric and I love orange too. I think that, there's some wisdom in that. Sometimes I think our bodies crave certain colors that maybe we need certain aspects of those polyphenols. So pay attention to that, but also realize where it's just a habit. And so that you can, branch out from that. And just with orange, I was thinking, the squashes, especially as we head into the fall and the winter, there's so many different colored squashes that I feel like people aren't as familiar with cooking, like acorn squash or, a spaghetti squash. There's so many options there. So if you've never tried any of those, I would say, start stepping out a little bit of your comfort zone and go to those farmers markets this fall. They're really fun. They're fun for the whole family, and experiment with new ways to incorporate some of these new foods.
I love it. And the last thing I would say is that we often think that to heal our eczema, we have to take a medicine
Mhm.
or a supplement or, what do I need to put on my skin to heal it? And it can be as simple as just changing your nutrition and
Mhm.
making it a lifestyle change. And these foods are medicine. So when you're thinking, I need to take a supplement or I need to take a medication, I want you to think of your food as medicine. And when you look down at your plate and you see reds and oranges and greens and yellows, you're thinking, okay, I'm eating all my medicine today.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, I don't see any questions coming in. So, Tori, thank you so much for joining me today. And again, if you guys want to meet us and have us assess your eczema, definitely go to the link in my bio, book a root cause consultation, and we will assess you and help you get down to the bottom of why you have eczema and how to heal it for good. All right. Have a great week, everyone. Bye bye.